regulatory agreement from New York State Housing and Community Renewal, HCR. Millen and I sent comments, and then Georgia Green sent comments to HCR, all in one package. Georgia is still waiting for the revised regulatory agreement back from the state, and they're also asking the state for a draft intercreditor agreement. I think the state drafted the intercreditor agreement for Block G, correct?
I believe that, yes.
Yes. So Georgia reports that they completed a new market study for the project and that the sales prices might be lowered from what they previously indicated. For example, one bedroom might be $280,000. But again, that's still all in progress. So I know at one point we were talking about November of this year, but it really looks like at this point, with Georgia Green asking for additional state subsidy and working through some finance issues, they're working through some environmental issues right now. It's likely going to close in the summer of 2025. So this is something that we'll continue to talk about, and I will continue to request updates on. The building permits are tentatively scheduled to go in, let's say, early spring 2025, March, April timeframe. So that's where it is right now, but again, I'll keep you posted as it progresses. On the Garvey's Point bonds, the underwriter, Morgan Stanley, whom this board selected. There's been an ad hoc working group that's been myself and Pam and Millen, capital market advisors, Tom Scott and John Fielding, who have been working specifically with Morgan Stanley since they've been selected. There hasn't been much progress, but we have had a few conference calls since they were selected as underwriter, and we finally did execute an engagement letter, which Camille circulated to all of you. Capital Market Advisors has submitted an updated retainer letter to the LEAC, and we're looking for the source of funds for that next retainer. Has been sent to RXR. Actually, they requested it yesterday, I think. So we went ahead and sent them the invoice. 50 Glen Street. Oh gosh, Millen, when did we do the resolution for that?
Beginning of the year.
Yeah. Are we closer to closing?
I got a draft title report today and commented on it.
Okay.
So we're half of a baby step closer to closing.
Okay. When do you think we're going to close?
First quarter.
In 2025?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we're still working through some due diligence. And you drafted all the closing documents, and we've reviewed them at least, and we've reviewed them with finance. So we're making progress.
Yep.
Okay. 115 Glen Street. As you know, this board approved a preliminary resolution for the project, which enabled us to go out and start the third-party reports. So standard valuation services, who's putting together the future taxes. Have they done a draft for us?
Yes.
I believe they did, right? And we had some questions. So that's gone back to them.
Mm-hmm.
MRB, who's doing the economic impact, have they provided a draft to us?
No, because
I don't
we need
think
to
I've seen
give
it.
them the pilot schedule so that they can analyze the pilot versus the other typical taxes.
Well, they're going to use the UTEC.
Yes, yeah, but they rely on us to.
So once we have
and
SBS, we'll be able to, right. So that hasn't been received yet, and we had a conference call with Kevin Grims, who looks at the sizing of the pilot and those types of issues for residential projects for us, but we don't have a draft yet.
Today,
ahead.
Kevin acknowledged that he had the information that he was looking for from the applicant, so he's now ready to start his report. That's literally as of this afternoon.
Okay. So we're not yet in a position to schedule a public hearing, but Millen, keep us posted, because as we get closer to having the drafts of those reports, then we're going to go ahead and schedule a public hearing for the board members. Does anyone have any questions for me on any of those projects or other ones? Okay, thank you so much.
Will Margot Zodesi please provide the members with her finance report?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. This is a financial update from budget to actual for the period of January through November. Thus far, the revenue for the IDA January through November is $286,000 compared to a budget of $313,000. Added to revenue, there's escrow revenue for $204,000 of professional fees, other revenue of $63,600, compared to a budget of $199,000 and interest income of $28,000. In terms of the expenses for January through November, total expenses are $382,000 compared to the annual budget of $308,000. Out of the expenses, we have salaries and benefits for the period of January through November for $158,000 compared to the annual budget of $171,000. We have professional expenditures incurred for $221,000. We have professional fees included accountant, legal, and escrow professional fees. Please note escrow expenses included are for $204,000. So the escrow revenue is $204,000. The escrow expenses are $204,000. Other expenses incurred are for $3,000 compared to the annual budget of $4,900. Other expenses include office, copier, and admin. Thus far, there is an operating loss of $86,000. Please keep in mind much of the revenue comes from project closings and has the ability to fluctuate throughout the year and from year to year. Please let me know if you have any questions regarding the IDA. Otherwise, I will cover Gateway.
Yes, I have actually two questions.
Sure.
The source of the interest income is what?
From a CD.
From a CD?
Correct.
And that is from the escrow revenue or total revenue?
That would be on.
That's our reserves.
The escrow revenue is kept separate and apart. Escrow revenue comes in is specifically for escrow expenses. So that money, those funds are not invested. That's kept separate and apart. For instance, if we get a legal fee in for $4,000, we have the bill for $4,000, so we will bill out.
No, I understand that, Margot. My question is, the interest income of $28,000, is it a CD?
Yes.
And what is the amount of revenue?
The amount of revenue from the CD.
Is the CD 200,000, 300,000?
The CD principal amount is, there are two CDs. One is for 500,000, and offhand, I can get back to you on the exact amount.
Those are our reserves.
That's what I'm trying to find.
Those are our reserves that we've had for years, that we have had to use because we have not had a net positive budget from a revenue standpoint in the last few years.
The revenue would specifically go to cover admin expenses. But again, the escrow expenses are kept separate and apart from any investment. So the cash on hand is again, what Ann had mentioned, cash reserves.
Well, what's the term of the CD? Or do you just keep rolling it over 1 year, 1 year, 1 year?
Right now, I believe, I would have to get you the exact terms. I believe it's 6 months. But again, I'll get you the exact amounts and the terms of the CD.
We don't just keep rolling them over year to year because we've had to use some of those reserves for payroll on a regular basis.
And also, it's listed under the audited financial statements, from every year. It's listed there as well.
Margot's good about going to the bank and asking for the best interest rates. Like there's time, we'll ask, is the 6 month or the 9 month interest rate better for us? Margot usually tells me there's a certain amount we're gonna need within a certain payroll period. And she's very good about outlining all that. Vince is on all those emails as treasurer. He gets all that information on a regular basis.
Is the board restricted as to the term of the CD? Can you do a 6 month? Can you do a 5 year?
We can't do a 5 year.
So
We
you're
have to
restricted.
well, from the standpoint of we need the reserves right now for payroll. So we can't do a 5 year. Like Margot takes out the amount we need and we may need to go back in 6 months. So we can't do like a very long term CD right now.
No, the reason for my questions is that the 28,000 doesn't seem like it's a lot of interest income. I'm just wondering if we've had other vehicles that we could look into.
In terms of alternative investments to get a higher interest rate?
Right.
I think for some of it, but probably not for all of it. You do need to keep some.
Right, like that's the thing, like we have a couple of different, we have two. And like, one of them we might be able to invest for a bit longer and sort of use the other one for the shorter term payroll that we need. But I know that we have been good about, when the CDs come up, trying to get better interest rates and you know, we have shopped it from time to time just to make sure we're getting good interest rates and things of that nature. Millen, I think we are restricted to a certain extent with the type of investment we can do.
Yeah, I have to look at your investment policy,
Right.
as to, you know, what you allow to do. My suggestion is, at the next meeting, I'll be prepared to talk about the investment policy, and Margot will be prepared to talk about what your investments are and should be.
I'm not suggesting that we buy Australian bonds.
I think he's asking, could we get more revenue
Yeah,
from our
well,
reserve?
Yes.
And quite frankly, this is the most interest we've ever been making because the interest rates have been good. They've been in our favor. Traditionally, we've made much less on interest, you know, in prior budgets. We've been able to make a little bit more in the last couple of years because, you know, we've been able to get higher interest. But
I'd just like to take a look at that, maybe we can get some additional income.
That's good.
You can look at mine too.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, sure, good question, thank you. Any more questions? If not, I will get to the Glen Cove Local Economic Assistance Corporation. Budget to actual January through November, total revenue thus far is roughly $5,800. That comes from admin fee revenue of $2,000 and interest income of roughly $3,800. Our expenses are roughly $6,200. Included in the expenses are admin fee expense of $2,000 paid to the IDA and professional fees of $4,200 compared to the annual budget of $4,500. Included in the professional fees are legal fees and an audit fee of $3,500. Thus far, there's a year-to-date loss for Gateway of $452. So please let me know if you have any questions for the Glen Cove Local Economic Assistance Corporation. Thank you.
So let's move on to this evening's unfinished business, which is an update on the Glen Cove Village. The land segment, Andrew Miller Tyler, please provide the members with an update on this matter.
well, I think we're going to start with an update from the team.
Right, just to level set, we've given a forbearance, because the project is rated on schedule, the completion date has come along, given a forbearance that was coterminous with the city building permit, which expired, I think it was Thursday of last week. So we had set this meeting for the developer to come and give us an update as to where they are, what they've accomplished, what they expect to accomplish in the immediate future. And then the question is going to be up to the board, what, you know, do we do from here?
And Tip will be joining us a little bit later on in the meeting. My understanding is that there will be a resolution on the city council agenda tonight regarding the building permit. He can speak about that more later. And we have had some conversations since the last meeting with some of the folks in the room, sort of, you know, get updated as we move along. But I think we have the team here. Do you all mind, for the benefit of the board, sort of identify yourself and also like which aspect of the project you're representing and your role on the projects? Okay.
We'll start.
Devin Kolka, CEO of the Kolka Group, we're the general contractor that is now involved in the project.
I'm Pankaj Malik from PM Law PC. I'm basically trying to facilitate different aspects of the project and bring it all together in a cohesive direction and form, and mostly general counsel for the project.
My name is Brian Ursino. I'm from Gatehouse Capital Partners, we're prospective lender for the project, and also a main lender potentially closing shortly.
Brad Schwartz from Zarian Steinmetz. Good to see you all, first of all. And hope after the meeting we have a chance to spend a minute to say hello, really, with counsel for the loan for Gatehouse Capital.
It's Naren. I'm the owner of the project, and I'm here with my team to explain what's developments we have made so far.
I'm Dan Dornfeld for Chaladig in Tehran. We represent the applicant company in regard to the IDA.
Dan, how do you want to give us your update?
So can I ask you to jump in further? And
Yeah, before you start, I just have a question for you, Millen. Has our foreclosure agreement expired also?
Yeah, our forbearance.
Forbearance, sorry.
Yes,
It's
yes.
expired also?
Yep.
Thank you.
As a,
Thursday.
I guess it was
last week.
coterminous, like you
They
said.
were both,
Yeah.
Yes,
Same day.
it comes with, yes.
Okay.
thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I was here last, over the summer, and at that time, we have provided certain updates as to where the project was back in June. Since then, we've had a 360-degree turnabout because of events that I'm sure everybody is unfortunately aware of that we had no part in, and we've just been trying to deal with the fallout from that. Really, after a couple of weeks of trying to get our bearings and figuring out where we were as a result of the whole G2D debacle, I think since October, we've been moving full speed ahead in a forward direction. We've been providing regular updates to Ann Fagman and the mayor and some of the other board members at this table. We've attended certain Zoom meetings, and because it was such a big fallout, there were a lot of characters that were coming in out of the woodworks expressing interest in the project, and we were like trying to vet them out, and some approached the board without our knowledge. There were other people that were involved in the project from past years past that failed to pay people on time, and certain relationships had to be terminated. That was the one thing that Manoj and I did in a very determined fashion. If something was not going in our direction and we had any information that was not in our favor, we terminated several agreements, and then since then we got connected with Coca LLC, who has come on site and has done a tremendous on the ground progress in remedying the unstable situation that had been left by MacX Corporation, and he's come on under a pre-construction due diligence agreement. We last spoke, we've been working on a construction management agreement with Coca, and there's a lot of moving parts in bringing this project together. Number one was the budget that we had relied on in order to get to a certain stage in the progression of the project was not accurate. And I know we've been asked for numbers, but we don't want to present you with numbers that are again going to change down the road. The couple of things that I can tell you is that we have been working with good faith and exercising extreme due diligence with counsel for Coca LLC. We've had several many hour, 4 or 5 hour meetings reviewing each and every term of the CM agreement. We've had back and forth red line drafts. The last set of comments went out to his counsel on Friday. He's going to get back to us by Thursday. And at the same time, contemporaneously with that, he's been working with his subcontractors to get trade prices in, which he's been working diligently to bring the prices down and as low as possible. So hand in hand, that's going to go hand in hand, because that will lead on to the construction financing. With the construction financing, we have a term sheet that has gone back and forth with Gatehouse, with some red lines from us, some comments from him, but he can't put the stamp on it and put a commitment until he has the final budget. And we want to give him the numbers as close to the real budget as possible. And then go on to the land loan closing, which is we are trying to take out and release the existing mortgage that we inherited from Dan Livingston, who was the prior owner of the project. And we worked all throughout Thanksgiving weekend with a team of, I don't know, maybe a dozen of us, attorneys, title company people, lending, representatives. We've had catch-up calls every other day, every 48 hours. And, there are some title issues, just like, you were mentioning that deal you've been working on for over a year. We've had 3.5 to 4 weeks to try to get this thing to closing. And there are about few things that we're waiting to clear up. One is the easement issue. There was tax lots that were changed, so they want to make sure that certain easements that came up on title are cleared, and they're not gonna affect their title because they wanna make sure that their title is going on the correct collateral. What else? I think the other issue were a few other things that have come up that we're trying to deal with, getting organizational docs and everything together, pledging of the membership interests. And the last thing is the D-Best lien, which was a lien that we're in litigation, and we've been going back and forth in litigation. We do not have a decision from the judge yet. However, we know we're gonna have to clear that off title in order to close, and which we anticipate doing, I think, within the next, 4 or 5 days max. In light of that, we submitted an application. Manoj and I have been working on, again, around the clock. We literally have no time for anything else. And giving them all these documents that they required from underwriting. And last night we got an email approving the loan, the bond. They require cash collateral of $200,000. And remember, the lien is over $1 million. It's $935,000 is the actual lien that was filed. And for the bonding company to require cash collateral only $200,000 is a testament to the fact that all the issues we raised in the litigation were read and reviewed by the underwriting and the bonding company, and they're only requiring a $200,000 cash collateral. So we got the information, and we're just working that out with Manoj to get them that money, and we should have that bond released to be, I think, by the end of this week. That all has to be done before the closing. So that's where we're at. And at this point, once they think the trajectory is, if I could just maybe lay it out in a chart, is we close the land loan, we get the lien discharge, we'll close the land loan, we'll have the agreement with COCA finalized, and then we'll move on to the conditional commitment for the construction loan, and then do the due diligence for that, which will probably take about 60 days. In the interim, we had mentioned to you at the November 12th Zoom call that we were in talks with certain development and equity partners, and had advised us that we need to submit certain documentation so that they could be thoroughly vetted. We have been in talks with some very serious players, and they're just doing their own due diligence before we can present anything. But two of the companies I think are well known to you guys. One is GGV, and one is Breslin Realty. So I think within the next week or two, we'll have which player is going to be coming on as a development sponsor, because as a condition to our construction loan, we need to have a JV development partner on stand. So I know we did not submit any documentation, but that has been done in the past. Documents have been submitted and then terminated and then amended. I just did not want to do that. In an abundance of caution, I said, when every T is crossed and every I is dotted, we can easily send you emails of signed, fully executed documents. And that's how I recommended that we proceed going forward.
I could speak to the construction aspect, if that's okay. Just a quick background on Colca. We've been around for 50 years. We're based out of Hog. My father started the company. I took over in 2016 and the sole owner of the company. We've done over probably $3 billion worth of construction, over 500 buildings all across Long Island, the tri-state. We used to have an office in South Florida. I met Manoj through a friend back in October. It was clear that I can help him through this process. There was a lot of people that have taken advantage of him in the past. Our first task was to get the stop work order lifted and to stabilize the site. So we fixed all of the supportive excavation on the site. We fixed a lot of the grading on the site and stabilized the site to make it a safe site. And then from there, we moved on to dropping drainage rings. And we've just recently completed, I think today, a lot of the drainage on the north end of the north site. On the design aspect of it, we had to re-engage designers that were involved in the project, months ago, years ago. So we got the architect, the MEP, the structural, and the civil back engaged. We actually switched the MEP engineer.
What's an MEP?
Sorry, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so we got everybody back into the project, re-looking at the project. looking at the new conditions of the project and coordinating a fully coordinated set of construction drawings that we can work off of. We did a new geotechnical report. It's in the process of being done. We have Muser Rutledge is doing that report. We have surveys of all the adjacent properties right now to make sure that those properties have not been affected by anything that has transpired on site since we started. We're just trying to do everything the right way and set the project up for success. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes some time, but we're believers of if you start it off the right way, that's how you finish it. So
So we can be assured you're not going to take advantage of them.
no.
I will vote.
Do you have a signed contract with Manoj right now?
We have the pre-construction agreement. The CM agreement is in a pretty good place right now, but we know that eventually he's going to bring in a JV partner who's going to have comments on that CM agreement. So we don't want to sign something that's eventually going to be amended in the near future.
And there was like a big, they felt, Manoj, I know, feels a lot of pressure because this project means the world to him. He's invested like tremendous amount of money, time, blood, sweat, energy into this project. And I was like, I understand, but I don't want you to give them another agreement that may be modified and changed. And let's just stay the course. We're doing the right thing. We've made tremendous progress in good faith, and we've been working diligently to make this make this whole deal come to fruition. And if you think about it, the 6 months we lost is directly attributable to the G2D and Ken Mackx debacle. So if that had not happened, we would have been in a different place now. But woulda, coulda, shoulda, I understand. We just want to move forward and just get, that time back, another opportunity to complete what we could not complete in these last 6 months.
Who's your bond with?
Oh, I don't know the name of the company, but I can look it up for you. Do you remember the name
So
of the
when
company?
you say 200,000 cash collateral, is that the bonds? that you
Yes.
use?
I have, I sent you, John Gordon, I think Millen sent you the email. We just got it late last night. So we sent it as soon as we got it.
Is that the invoice?
That's the invoice from the bonding company. And then I got a draft bond.
DD agency?
That's the broker.
That's the broker.
Would you like to live in neutral or something like that?
I can't really tell from this document.
I have,
It's not really
the draft,
No.
the bond draft.
That's the thing.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you all, I didn't even want to circulate this because this is an invoice, not,
No, this is the discharge link, this isn't.
right. And this is only an invoice to do so. So Millen and I felt that it really wasn't something.
It could be a
It's a
55, I'd just be
first
interested to
It's a
know.
first
It's
indemnity.
First Indemnity of America Insurance Company. I have the draft, the discharge bond. I did not send that to you because I just got it literally an hour ago.
Okay, you can send that along, please.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you paid the fee and that's now the bond?
No, we haven't paid the fee yet. We just got the invoice and everything last night. We're just, trying to also see if, I also reached out to the attorneys for DVest and told them, this is what we're paying to the bonding company. This is what it's gonna cost us. If you want, we can pay you the same thing and a little bit more of an upcharge if you want to just completely release it and end the litigation. So we've been going back and forth with offers all day. So maybe by tomorrow, if they don't take our final offer, then we'll pay the thing and get the discharge.
Okay, so the bond is to be able to bond off the lien and then,
And then the litigation will continue. That's what will happen, but it won't be on the property.
right.
Right,
so
we're
it's-
gonna
so
get
you-
it taken
so you
out,
get-
but, it's not gonna be an IDA issue.
The project will be taken out.
Do you mind just going back a second? I'm not sure I heard it. When are you making a decision about the potential developer? I heard you say 2 different names, but.
We submitted the deal specs to them, and
Okay.
Manoj has been in meetings with both of them, both
Okay,
outfits, and they are doing their due diligence. I think if Dave at GGB says, he needs to vet the deal, do some due diligence to see if he has the time.
Mhm.
Breslin Manoj can tell you about his meeting with them. He met with them on Friday.
Yeah, we had a meeting with him almost 4 or 5 hours. They were interested in the team. And yesterday we had a couple of questions and 1.5 hour
conversation we had with,
That,
with Gavin. And today also he has a meeting with them. We did a phone call today. Phone call today. So they are very interested in this and hopefully we'll forward with them.
Okay, thank you.
And I know you guys don't have a budget yet, but, do you have like a ballpark, like is it higher or lower than what was previously submitted?
could be higher.
It's gonna be higher?
Well, like, we had a call, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
At that time, I think I heard 80 million.
Yeah, but the number is, this is the hard cost and the cost to complete. According to Manoj, the number that you were mentioning, the 55, that's just hard costs. It doesn't include the entire budget amount. So the entire budget amount is not gonna be that much more. I don't know what the full budget is that you guys submitted. I think Dan's office is
The
that.
full budget that was submitted in 2021 was something like 56 million. Right, okay. So no, the 56 was not just the hard costs. That was the entire budget in 2021.
No, I think that was a hard cost.
We can go back and look at the application, but the acquisition costs were part of, the carrying costs and acquisition were part of the IDA application. So I guess, I think what the board is saying is that we had a $56 million project total in 2021, and they would like to understand what the total project cost, and, the breakdown that's in the IDA application. I think we get into a breakdown in the application is now.
So when I have not seen the initial application that was put in on the total budget and how they came to that number. I don't even know if Manoj was part of that or Dan.
No, he was.
Yeah.
It's on our website, and we're happy to share it. I mean, and I think your firm was, yeah.
So what are, after the steps that I had outlined earlier, once we do have the final budget, there is gonna be an application through Dan's office for additional financial assistance. Once we have those numbers, and then we'll compare a chart as to why, and we can explain it, with more clarity.
And fees, go up.
So that's the first time I'm actually definitively, or I think maybe we're definitively hearing that you're going to be asking for more financial assistance.
Well, the expectation is the numbers are going up from the original application, so just the fact that there'll be sales tax based on her costs.
So you're going to request an increased mortgage recording tax and sales tax
Sure.
abatement. Okay. No, it's just that's been unclear. So now we're, just setting.
And like I said, we're finalizing the budget. It'll be a better budget than was prepared before because Devin's going to be preparing it, and we can give you a better idea, a more exact number. But also, carrying costs obviously have been accrued since 2021, and costs have still gone up since 2021.
And in addition to which, this budget is based on actual trade costs and contracts that we have to buy out before we close the construction work. I don't know that they ever got to that stage previously.
No, I mean, and this is all helpful information because again, I think the question has been asked by the board over many months. I didn't say years, but probably could have. Is there going to be additional financial assistance? So it's just good to know, and you'll be coming in with an updated application? Okay, that's the expectation. Thank you.
And you have relationships with all the current subs that you're looking for? Nothing new or added or new or anything?
No, we went to our key guys first. We had to turn it around pretty quickly, so.
Yeah.
Well, Devin, will a lot of those trades be Long Island based?
Majority of them are Long Island based. There's extra incentives if the workers live in Glen Cove. We haven't really had those discussions yet, but we have gone out to subcontractors whose corporate office is Glen Cove.
It would just be, I guess, helpful for everyone to know as you progress through that, like if you have a list of the contractors and to see where they're based, and there's a quarterly filing on workforce for this particular project, coming in on this project for the local Glen Cove workers.
Mr. Schwartz, you up?
Brad's got something to say. I guess we are in the batting order. So as Brian mentioned, we're prospective lenders. So how we put in to conduct zoning land use due diligence for Gatehouse with respect to The land loan that's currently being worked on, as well as the construction loan that's anticipated to follow approximately 3 or so months behind that. So
I'm sorry,
approximately 3 or so months behind the land loan. So the land loan, as Todd mentioned, is hoping to close shortly. Not a specific date yet, but everyone's working feverishly to get there. And so Brian is here, can answer any questions with respect to the financing structure, and the efforts that Gatehouse is making to stand firmly behind the project and make sure it comes to fruition after all these years.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, you're ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I don't think we can tell you no.
This young lady's comments made at the last meeting, I believe you told us the land loan of $5.3 million was going to close on December 5th.
Correct.
What happened?
Well, Thanksgiving week happened, a lot of people were away, even though we worked, the majority of the team was working throughout the weekend. We did not get title report in until after the 5th. I think the title report did not come in until after the 5th. And then since we got the title reports, today is December 10th, that was 5 days ago. We've been trying to clear up the title issues and get all the other documents together. That's what happened, and we got an extension on, the payoff dates until next week so that we can close this week. There's only so much we can do. I mean, it's a $5.35 million loan, and the part of there were 7 or 8 mortgages that comprise the $13,050,000. It's not just one mortgage that's against the property. So with that, we had to collect documents like promissory notes, the mortgages. We're trying to assign that portion of one of the mortgages, so they're spreader agreements, splitter agreements, assignment documents. We can go through the entire checklist of what we've been working on to try to get this closed. Gatehouse is represented by Eric Feinstein on the transaction, so we've been literally on calls with them every other day to update the checklist and mark things off as and when we get closer to it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of moving parts on that loan. And I mean, it's 5.3 million, but it's also in anticipation of a much, much larger loan. So we're trying to make sure everything's lined up correctly. Plus the original current mortgage holder's attorney's been away this week, but we're within a few days of closing it. It's because it's been just an extraordinary amount of work to get this particular loan given its history.
Yeah, I understand all the red tape, but for future reference, don't come before the board and say we're closing on December 5th, and then it becomes December 12th, it becomes January. When you give us a definitive date, we expect you to be held to that date. I understand there's a lot of moving parts, but there's been a lot of moving parts for 20 years.
Understood. And at the time, the reason I gave the December 5th date is because the lender basically gave us till December 5th. That was his drop dead deadline. But then when we showed him all the issues that we were dealing with and trying to get the loan ready to close, we had no choice but to ask him to extend it. And he did it without interest because he understood what a complex deal it was. It became to close. That was not something that I had anticipated because I didn't really know it until we got into getting all the due diligence done and sorted out.
It's not uncommon to be honest with you. Just in fairness, we had full intention of closing quickly, but when you get into the weeds on diligence and start reviewing documents, zoning, back history of properties, operating documents, things need to happen that are outside of our control and certainly outside of even our borrower's control. You have a lot of characters involved in this transaction, as I think you guys are aware, and we're trying to get them to do things for us, which just takes some time. So really appreciate the patience. We're here to show you our story.
Tom, can I just ask a quick question that was related to some of this? And then are you aware of all the mortgages? Because I don't know, you know what I mean? Just all the mortgages that are being mentioned. Are we aware of all the mortgages involved?
The mortgages were all done before the IDA. It was from the same lender.
I'm just curious.
We're not a party to them.
These are ones that were done pre. Okay, that's all. Okay, thank you.
So just to continue along the same lines, Mr. Schwartz, you are counseling Gatehouse Capital as to the due diligence on the lending.
Correct. From the land use zoning perspective, Harry Feinstein is the firm handling the actual loan transaction. So I'm advising Gatehouse with respect to zoning and land use issues and general due diligence regarding this project. Both on the current loan, the land loan, as well as the anticipated construction.
And to that end, one of the conditions that they have on our checklist is, out of, I believe, 65 items, is they just want some kind of email or something, a little blurb in writing from the IDA that the IDA does not need to approve the closing of the landlord. Dan Dornfeld has done a brilliant job of providing all the documents that he has to show because it predates the IDA, it should not be required. So I think we also would like to make an official request that Millen could send us an email so that it would appease the lender so that we can go ahead to closing and cross that one off our checklist.
I have no problem in doing that. And again, making the loan is fine, even pledging the interest, I heard, is fine. If there is a foreclosure, the idea would be to approve whoever it is that you want to take title to the project. But I'm happy to work with you and give you where you need in terms of closing the bridge loan, including a pledge of the interest.
Thank you.
With respect to the forbearance agreement that we had in place, I think we had given you a laundry list of items as part of the due diligence, of which we have nothing. I don't want to hear that, we're trying the best, there's a lot of moving parts. The patience of this board is running thin. A couple of simple things. We asked for a full organizational chart. Why is that a problem?
Well, I think that's the future organizational chart.
Well,
I think they've chosen their equity
Right.
partner.
we still don't have an equity partner?
No.
I heard that they were talking to Georgia Green Ventures and Breslin. Those are the two, they just identified that they're in negotiations.
Tom, this may be a good segue. One of the conditions or items that we had asked for is an extension of the city building permit, which may or may not be on the agenda in the next hour. But I would defer to Tip as to whether or not you have any comments on that.
It's on the agenda for weeks.
Okay. And if the city council does approve it, how long of an extension is that?
1 year.
1 year from last Thursday?
December 5th.
From December 5th.
I guess a question for you, Mon, how would that affect another forbearance agreement with the IDA?
The short answer is however you tell me you want it to. There's obviously a number of open items. That is one of them. That's probably the very first one that would get satisfied, if it gets satisfied tonight. It sounds like closing the bridge loan would be probably the second one. And then, my question may be to the team, what do you envision as the timing for each of these other steps? And then to answer your question, Mom, is, I think that I've heard the request for an extension of the forbearance. And the question, I think, for you all is, are you willing to do so? And if so, for how long? And, what steps need to be accomplished within that time period? All of them, okay?
Did the request come from the developer
What request?
to extend the forbearance agreement?
It came from our team because we know we need that extension. And in June, the few things that were there was we needed to have some type of equity injection or some type of finalized agreement with G2D, which we know what happened with that. The lien was the issue, the D-Best lien, which we're on the, we're about to get that cleared and the discharge for you before the end of the week. And then it was the fact that the project, there was a stop work order on the project. And that has been corrected. So the area, surrounding area was not in a stable condition based upon a majority of the work that was done by D-Best and the work that was done by MACX. Then there were other issues that we were dealing with about the MACX not paying workers. Manoj stepped in and we made sure everybody was paid that was supposed to be paid. Manoj paid MACX, and then contractors were coming out of the woodworks that they were not paid, so Manoj paid them and MACX. So we were dealing with all of that, even though we didn't get 100% things done. Maybe we did move the needle in the right direction. And we hope that it's enough to show that given a little bit more time, now that we have the right players on board, we will get 100% of it done.
Yeah, in what time frame?
That I'm thinking it's got to be at minimum 6 months.
You're asking for a 6-month forbearance agreement?
That's what I think realistically, because knowing the due diligence we've done for the bridge loan, I can only imagine the amount of diligence that's going to be required for the construction loan. That is going to take about 2 to 3 months, and then even though we've started talks with these 2 big development outfits and they've both expressed interest, once they sign on the dotted line and give us a letter of intent that they are interested in the deal, that is going to be a tremendous project to try to get that deal finalized. And it's going to be a pretty big M&A transaction. We're going to have to negotiate that. You're talking more due diligence, more back and forth red tape. So,
But I mean, maybe the IDA would consider giving us a shorter forbearance, and we can come back and we'll have made progress towards finishing the bridge loan and make progress towards the construction loan. Maybe we would identify the investor at that point. So maybe if you don't give us, we're ultimately going to need 6 months probably to finalize the construction loan, but maybe the board would be willing to give us, let's say, a 60-day period. We can come back and have made a significant amount of progress at that time on all those items.
I just want to be sure that if we get 60 days, we won't come back with 100%. I'm a fast learner. I'm not going to stick the neck out with a date again, because 60 days, we're not going to get 100% done.
Lesson learned.
Absolutely.
Just to point out, there's a stipulation in my bridge loan that the IDA has granted your agreement for the term of the loan.
The forbearance
Yeah,
agreement.
and the term of the loan. So we have a 12-month loan. So we're talking about you guys are questioning providing a 6-month loan. That's something that I would have to consider. And because we were now giving a loan on a project that is actually benefiting greatly from the financial tax benefit here. They were saying that it might not exist in 6 months. It's just something for me to consider. I'm just pointing it out.
Could you repeat that?
Sure. So
If the idea were to give a 2-month or 6-month extension, that's not the term of your loan. Are you saying you won't close the bridge loan?
no, it's not that we'll close the bridge loan. It's a covenant of the loan that this approval exists in perpetuity for this bridge loan.
And this covenant was known by everyone prior to coming here tonight?
I mean, as part of our original assessment of the project, I'm sure you can appreciate this. A couple of things are very important for us. One, the tax benefit associated with it. 2, total project costs. We have the tax benefit in place, and we're moving forward with large construction. We're moving forward with large construction, it would be nice to know that this tax benefit exists. It's hard to underwrite in theoretical terms. We're talking about big numbers. We're willing to work with you guys on it. I'm not bringing it up now as like I'm gonna blow this up.
That's a very good point.
But I'm just trying to show you.
Certainly not.
I'm here
Good to know.
out of goodwill to recognize the amount of effort that everyone's put in here. We just stepped into this transaction. We are the newest player in the room. But in reviewing the documents and looking through the history, it's clear that there's and I think someone of you mentioned it, there's deal fatigue. Believe me, I'm empathetic to that. This is my business. Deal fatigue is very real, and we'd like to help get this over the finish line. So we will be as amenable to whatever needs to happen in this front to help kind of push this forward. But I just did want to bring it up that it's seems like a reasonable request to get the extension. I've seen a lot of work in the last 60 days that these people are doing, and the money he has in the project. So that's just my
Tough thing is, I have to sell part of this in my city council law, they don't see, we talk about that you see a lot of work, they don't see it.
Yeah. It's hard because it's not.
That is what makes it difficult.
If you go to the site, you can see the golden run.
Yes, on the fun stuff.
I was there today.
And it's not great. and Polka is stepping in to rectify some past wrongdoings, from what I can tell. I did speak to G2 once. It was like the day before news broke about his, having financial issues. And it's just been a series of unfortunate issues. When you have people that are not as professional, it's very easy to slip up on a project like this. It's a complicated project, slope and grade, a lot of dirt needs to get moved. There's some complexities, some plans that were approved that are, driving some costs associated with the budget, as I'm sure Polka can advise you guys on. And my spot is probably the easiest spot. We're going to provide a loan once all of this stuff is kind of taken care of. But there is a lot of wood to chop on these deals, and it's like, I'm sure people who've had construction background or design background can understand, when you're dealing with all these players that have been involved, you could get thrown into a negative loop, and I think that's what's happened here. And we're kind of at the 5-yard line of getting that move this project forward. And that's why I'm excited. I'm coming in very late, but I can see, the deal fatigue, and I can see the history associated with this. But I think there is the right team for that.
I'm trying to get to what might be accomplished in 60 days. Again, I'm obviously speaking for the board, but I want to understand what your.
And before that, I just want to understand, when you say 6 months, could this be that the board may grant a 60-day extension of forbearance, but then after the 60-day extension of forbearance, you might be ready to come in with the amended IDA application? So we're no longer in a forbearance period, then we're in a period of reviewing the new amended application.
That would be my expectation.
Okay.
So
That's what I wanted to understand.
the list that I have, and I want to make sure that I'm understanding your request. Within 2 months, you bond over the mechanics lien and there'd be no further litigation. You would receive the building permit from the city. You would have closed the bridge loan. I have on my list, you have a construction loan term sheet. Is that reasonable within 60 days of the term sheet?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And you would identify the equity source. You told us at least 2 possibilities. And obviously we need to approve that, but it's easier if you narrowed it down to 1 rather than 2. Is that reasonable within 60 days?
Yes.
I just make a comment on that, just to make sure that we're all using the same terminology. The people that you're talking about now, are they equity providers or are they
Developers or equity, we have not hashed out the terms of the deal yet.
I think those are 2 things that you should, as for my own diligence, I would want to know.
Yeah.
We want to know who the fee developer is going to be, who the development partner is going to be, and then ultimately where the rest of the equity would be coming from. Those are potentially the same person, but they're not, they don't have to be.
Right, under your land loan, what is the contingency or what is the requirement for coming to you with the developer?
So it's subject to our approval. Someone who's got to have reasonable experience in the space of similar project size, similar scope. We review their body of work, we review their body of work, and look at their resume, make sure that they're someone capable of doing it. We have a stipulation in our land loan term sheet that I have to have this person selected and signed up with the review within 30 days. Which I thought was
30 days of the close.
Which I thought was a reasonable.
The bridge loan, yes.
And just a question on that, it's okay if at that point, they're not an equity partner, but they at least need to be the development partner, is that correct?
Correct, with
Okay.
with the qualification.
Right.
Okay, I just want to understand.
The reality of
Okay.
the loan is that, you can't move forward with the construction of the project unless you have the equity. So like, it's an assumption that we'll get there. It's a good project, it's in a great part of the world. So we're confident that we'll get to that.
Do you know what the project is?
Do I know what the project is? Yes.
What is it?
It's a multi-family development, 176 units with 352 below-grade parking spaces.
It's not going to be assisted living?
As far as I know, no. That's not what we're setting up for.
So I'll address my question to Mr. Minoche.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me, and right there, as soon as I come to know, right there.
I'm sorry, that was a
That was
surprise
a
to you?
surprise to me. It was not in my knowledge. I don't know where this term came from. As soon as I came to know, right, I shut it down.
Mr. Scott, for our benefit, what
What's behind that question?
I guess
There may be some issue that-
I'll address that because I sent the email to Joe. It was brought to our attention that there was an advertisement on the bidding website advertising the project as an $80 million assisted, I think it was senior living project. And we were just all caught off guard because obviously that's not the planning board land use
That's
approval.
not place for that.
Right, exactly. So when we saw that, which was available publicly on the internet, we were concerned. So I went to our chairperson, I said, Chairperson Pam, do you want me to share this with Minoj? She said yes, so I did. Minoj wrote back very quickly, probably within, 20 minutes, that he was not aware of that solicitation, that it was being taken down, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's what was being referred to there.
Yeah, it was handled within 1 hour.
I guess maybe to expand on that, Tom, I guess a question that I'm kind of hearing is, how did that happen? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why did that happen or how did that happen?
Yeah,
So if you want me to take that. So as you know, we've been working on coming up with budget numbers. And when Devin, we were in talks with a group that Brian had introduced us to that were interested in an equity partnership. And Devin's numbers were coming out back a lot higher. We had a little bit of a sticker shock because the original budget was a certain amount of money and Devin's numbers were coming back at a certain level. So we reached out to a couple of other outfits. One is Racanelli, who does a lot of work on Long Island, and another is another developer, a subcontractor that Manoj knew from the prior iteration of this deal, Lalo Construction in Lewis. So these guys put bids, trade bids, requesting trade bids because we wanted to compare. We didn't want to just go with one number. At this point, we wanted to have a comparison. We were not aware that on this bidding website, this person who was in charge of that company had put up this ad. Devin's put us up on a certain ad that's you can only access if you have login credentials and things like that.
It's a private bid management software.
Right, so I don't know where this gentleman posted it, and I think Manoj, as soon as he saw that, figured out it must have been him, and he had him pull that down immediately. We still don't have the numbers back from Racanelli yet, which is another reason why we want to just make sure we have the exact numbers before we get the budget, get the CM agreement, get the construction loan tied up. That's where that stems from.
Aren't you need the exact number before you amend the IDA application?
Yeah.
I thought I heard you say when you can, that within 60 days you'd be able to amend the application.
We expect to have the budget within the next 60 days, which will allow us to amend the application.
Okay.
I'm only looking at the clock, knowing that Pam and Tip and even some of us have to go down to city council. I don't know if we want to ask more questions or go into internal discussion. I want you to fully ask your question.
In the interest of time, I can forego the rest of my questions. But I guess the main question I have for the board is, what would be the extension timeline for the forbearance agreement? I don't know where the board is on that. I know where I'm at. I think that has to be discussed.
So in that vein, Chairperson, would you want to make a motion for the board to go into executive session to discuss proposed pending or current litigation and also discuss the financial credit or employment history of a corporation?
I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss
Proposed pending or current litigation, financial credit or employment history, in this case, of a corporation.
May I have a second? Motion seconded once again by Vince Hartley. Will the secretary please call the board?
Lisa Travisello.
Vote aye.
Tom Scott.
Yes.
Dave Jimenez.
Aye.
Jim Capiello.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hartley.
Yes.
Chairperson Pam Spera.
I vote aye. Motion carried. We enter executive session at 7:09 p.m. Please pause the live stream. Camille?
Presuming you're going to ask them to step out.
Yes,
Is there
they are.
anything else you want to ask them, or can we let them go?
They can go out.